So I'll remember to ask if you can hear me to start out. Uh, and yeah, Bill B, there's pie? I didn't know there was pie. What kind of pie is there? I like pie. All right. I know there's a little bit of a delay. Okay. Hopefully you're hearing me, because if you're not, I don't know what I'm going to do. um, hmm. Well, okay, good. I was going to say loud and clear. All right. Forget the. I should know there's a delay in chat. So, yeah. So I missed out on the Do Nothing Project on Sunday. Lauren Rosen filled in for me in chat. Welcome, Catherine. Bonjour, Paul. Hello, Bill B. Fred, as always. Emma, Ruth, Colette, Mao. Congratulations on staying up. And Bill J. Welcome. Let's see. And then Lynn is here from the future. I hope the future is treating you well. I see Catherine already. Oh, and Brian Sweeney. Let's see if I miss anybody. Maybe I did. All right. So a little bit of a logistical thing at the front on the 19th. So that's 2 weeks, 14 days from today. I will be traveling to Minnesota. And so I'm going to check in with, finishing grilled cheese. Sounds delicious, Esquin. I will be traveling to Minnesota. That weekend is it's called the Back to the 50s, Back to the 50s car show at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds. I go often. I used to say that I would go every year, but I haven't been able to go every year. Partly the pandemic, but yeah. So I'm gonna check in with Ralph and Brooke to see if one of them can fill in. I didn't get a chance to look at our poodle poll, or our poodle doll, or the doodle poll, as one might say. Yeah, Minnesota is almost Canada, so I have Canadian friends who refer to Minnesota as the Lost Province, or the Forgotten Province. And then, yeah, so, okay. So, thank you, Emma. So we'll see. So Ralph, or Brooke, or maybe I'll see if Jeff can fill in. I know we joked about that in the past, but who knows? I'm not sure. Where the family Warren will be at that point. We're all moving to Canada. Is that because that's where the pie is? I did listen. This is just so last week I was talking about my love for Libby and all things audiobook related. I did listen to Mike Myers, the comedian, not the horror film character. Mike Myers' Canada book, and it was a delight. So I was very very pleased to pick that up as one of my borrows. So I'm trying to pull out the flow cards here while I'm talking. Of course, I should be not multitasking, because multitasking is a lie. But I guess you can duo task. You hear cognitive science. Oh, here's Brooke. Welcome, Brooke. So not to put you on the spot, Brooke, but I'm going to be out on the 19th. So I was saying before you got here that I was going to have to reach out to you and Ralph to see if somebody would be able to fill in. And then the other matter of business is that I haven't looked at the doodle poll, which some folks had mentioned as the poodle doll. If you flip the letters around, transpose the initial letter on the words, which is quite amusing. I think the first day that we might have met was going to be Saturday. If for some reason I did schedule something for this Saturday, it would be in addition to the actual thing. So it'd be like a dry run kind of a thing. But I'm not totally sure if I'm going to have everything kind of in order the way I want things to be by Saturday. So, and I've got new light. We parked the trailer in a different location, so it's not blocking the sun. But yeah, so if you do see something for this Saturday, it would be like a mini dress rehearsal thing, just to iron out Zoom stuff and things like that in preparation for a wider thing. So I thought today we might just do. Oh, is the new light is helpful? Okay. Well, there we go. Yeah. So the travel trailer is like this much more that way than it used to be this way, a little bit that much more, and that blocked the sun. So not that you needed any of that logistical information. So tentative fill in for Brooke 2 weeks from now, and then I'll get information about. I'll get information. So you'll hear from me, hopefully not last second like you did today. Although I know some people say the last second reminders are better than Sunday or Monday. So thank you for that feedback. But yeah, so we'll see about that. There's I think his name is George Thompson. Now I feel like a silly person, not remembering his name all of a sudden. Just like I legit just thought about him and then spaced out. I've been sitting with a fellow, yes, George Thompson. He's a Taoist practitioner, and I was just trying to get ideas of like how to do the Zoom stuff and things like that. So the travel trailer. So it's a new travel trailer. We sold the other one and then we used the money to upgrade. So it's new to us. And I think I posted some on, if you use on Instagram, if you go to my personal handle, just Leonard's, there's pictures from the weekend. So for folks that don't know, Tucson has Santa Catalina Mountain that are really nearby, and I have no idea what they are in meters, but the mountain is 9,100 something is the top, and we were staying at about 6,500 to 7,000 elevation, which was nice to get away from the heat. It's just sort of May is really just the desert preheating, and so now we're really starting to get into the actual heat, and so we were able to escape that for a little bit. And then there is they call it the Sky Center, Mount Lemmon Sky Center, and they have astronomy up there. They have a bunch of different telescopes. I think there's 8 telescopes up there. They have telescopes now in basically travel trailer like size, or like utility trailers. And they like have a canopy that like drops down, and it's like super amazing. And they're remote operated. So one of the 2 of the telescopes were for the Catalina Sky Survey, which I guess they're looking for near Earth objects. They're trying to prevent the movie Armageddon or Don't Look Up. And then 1 or 2 of them are actually operated by institutions in South Korea. They're either their polytechnics or their universities. But the benefit for them is that their daytime is our nighttime, so they can do all their nighttime observations here in Tucson during the day. And if you don't know Tucson, one of the other things Tucson is known for is that we, at the University of Arizona, they make most of the mirrors that are used, the large mirrors that are used in a lot of these observatories, the telescope mirrors. They're these like glass honeycombs. It's really, really interesting. So if you look up, I think you probably can find information like if you search Mirror Lab, University of Arizona. And then random other fact, I used to work at the university for some biology and bioinformatics projects and stuff like that. So that's kind of my Tucson sort of connection. Although I have yet to get any of my emails to the SEMA lab answered. The SEMA lab is where Shinzen Young is. He's a science advisor to Jay Sanguinetti and his research group there. And that, I think it stands for sonification. So SEMA, I think it's Sonification Enhanced Mindful Attention, I think is what the acronym stands for. So it might be the Richard F. Karas Mirror Lab. For some reason, I thought it was Angel was one of the researchers' names on it there. So welcome, Jeff McPhee. Yeah, so that's a bunch of random stuff. We're going to meditate. But got cards. So what we're going to do is flow. So flow is going to be changes in our sensory experience. And we'll play around with this, but flow could also be the flow if we let's just say we picked gosh, good thing I'm not an actual trained television person. So let's just say we had here HEAR. You could also think of the flow of hopping from the different sounds around you as another type of flow, not just the sound auditory, either external sounds or internal mental talk sounds. So that the flow of attention is another thing that you can kind of play around with when we're playing with flow. So in general, we can have flow in C. We can in all three categories: see, hear, feel. So we can have flow in C. The Gonsfeld experience of our eyes closed and having kind of the changing field. That's one of the ways that I think a lot of people can experience that C flow aspect. I meditated while it was snowing here in Tucson once, and that was my one and only chance to do C flow here. Yet or now, growth mindset. And then the notion is just sort of like the changing quality. So increasing, decreasing, or fluctuations. We can think of a lot of things in experience are expanding and contracting, and that generates aspects of flow. And then two things we can play with. I'll drop them in as bits and pieces that you can totally ignore, or let me set up our timer, or you can play around with as you see fit. And that's one is just to, if you have something in your sensory experience and it just drops off, you can note that as a gone, like it just goes away. Or if it partially drops away, you can also consider that kind of a gone. So you have a noise and you hear that noise and then it's gone. If you notice the disappearance, you can do that. And then in experiencing flow, whichever flow we pull from our card here in a second, if you have restful sensations, then that's one thing that you could experience a restful sensations in doing this. Not saying it's not required by any stretch of imagination, but if it comes up, just noting that you could note, or that's something you could shift and include in your focus range, and then use that as well. So I'm not going to go too much into gone or too much into rest in the guidance, but I want to note it here and kind of flag it so that if I mention it, you have a little bit of an orientation towards it. Because I realize I'm doing a lot of stuff, but you don't have a lot of the backgrounds. So anyway, that was why I asked too long ago. I should put that survey back out again too, about whether or not there's interest in me running an 8-week course online. So, all right. So you'll know before I will know. Yes, Unified Mindfulness is Thank you. All right. Oh no. Sea flow. All right. So we're gonna play the card we were dealt. All right. So you can do this eyes open or eyes closed. With eyes open, now that we've got this, the saccades of the eye, as you're sort of sitting in your you can defocus your eyes. That's usually the meditation instruction around that. The small amounts of saccades, or as your eye kind of focuses on different or shifts to different things in your field of vision, that would be one type of flow that could be available. Again, don't have to do that, but just a thing. So yeah, so if you can't do open, not a problem. For sea flow, we would be looking at that Gansfeld quality um, um, of the motion kind of behind the eyes, or the lava lamp effect is what Jeff calls that. And then the other notion, again, it's C, so that gives us also the inner mental images. So if mental images are there, you can totally do that. So eyes open is not available for everybody. So that's partly why I reacted the way I did when we pulled it. So all right. It's already 31 minutes past. I will ring the bell. I have the timer set for 25 minutes. So we'll have guidance. We'll do about a 3-minute setup. We'll have guidance up until about 5 minutes remaining, and then I'll cue you that you can shift into do nothing practice. All right. Thank you for being here. All right. So just a reminder, the card that we drew was Sea Flow. And as noted, you don't by no means have to do it with eyes open, but if you want to experiment with eyes open, that is available to you. So you're always welcome to meditate in a lying down posture, or standing, or walking. In this situation, you probably wouldn't want to walk with your eyes closed, but I'm going to focus on the seated posture for my instruction. And that could be on a cushion on the ground, or in the equally spiritual chair, as Susan Piver says. So really just looking to adopt a posture that is upright without having to effort or maintain. And then beginning really with what's already here. So we're not trying to push away what's here, acknowledging what's here. Think of that as your sort of inner weather report. And a benefit to checking in on what's here is to give you an idea of what's the sit going to be like. So what are the conditions? And then finally, a few deliberate breaths as we crib from the Beastie Boys. Often slow and low is the tempo that we're going for. Breathing in slow through the nose allows us to breathe low into the belly. And then the turnaround and exhale, extending that exhale and even accentuating it. And then with the element of flow, we're looking for changes in our experience. So if you just closed your eyes, you may notice you've got a little bit of maybe a persistent mental image, or persistent, I shouldn't say mental image, persistent image of kind of what your eye was taking in as far as light beforehand. And then the longer your eyes are closed, the more that'll kind of morph and change. And one thing that might be possible or might come up for you is that when we're looking for change, especially in a narrow category like C, narrower if you're C in, is you might sort of not notice any change. And it can be helpful to have a plan for that. And that's where rest comes in. So if there's nothing going on, you just note that as rest. So no need to turn it into a problem. So the pattern is similar to our techniques we normally do, where we have this focus range. So it's focus range is C, specifically flow. If there's no activation, there's no change, we can note that as rest. So we would notice that and then optionally label it rest. And then you could use flow if you want as your optional label. Totally up to you. And then the last reminder I'll offer before I let you explore on your own is just this predict and prepare quality. So you may find that at the beginning it takes a little bit of rhythm to get into this focus range with this technique. So just knowing and having a little bit of patience to notice when you're focusing away. So you may notice a tendency to go to your home base. So just being able to kindly and with care bring your attention back to sea flow. So I'll let you, as promised, explore on your own. Check in a bit. And so one thing that comes up when we narrow our focus range is often we get sort of the inputs from the other senses or other categories. So I notice as I have my eyes closed, a little bit of solidarity for the folks that have got their eyes closed too, that I'm feeling my eyes, which is quite prominent, that I'm getting a lot of senses of the physical feeling of my eyes or the eyelids, and almost like I'm feeling the blood pumping over my eyelids. So I'm picking that up and then getting distracted, and then with care, as I'm giving the advice to you, also taking that advice myself, with care, shifting back to see flow. And then almost immediately I'm getting that pulled away, come back, pulled away, come back. So just in the same way that you might get pulled in a different direction by a toddler, or you might get pulled by a puppy who isn't used to being on a leash just yet, just offering as much of that care and compassion for yourself. And then there's always kind of the break glass escape technique. If it's totally uncomfortable and you don't feel like you're resourced, you can shift back into practicing with your home base. And then there's always the option of stopping. So getting up, moving around, if your discomfort is really great. So just knowing those are there. All right. So hopefully that is something that might serve you a bit. And then, if nothing else, it's a short practice distraction for you. All right. So keep going. As always, you're welcome to continue with the technique if you've gotten into a rhythm. This is your opportunity to let go of the technique and shift into do nothing. And your reminder about do nothing, we're letting go of any intention to control or guide or manage our attention. If we notice that we're trying to do that, we let that go. And if you've dropped it or dropped the technique over and over, just acknowledging that's kind of what consciousness wants to do, letting it go. If you find yourself spontaneously counting your breaths and you try to stop, and then you find that you're spontaneously counting your breaths again, just letting the counting going. ring the bell to signal the end of our sit. Ring it very softly. Thank you for your practice. Thank you for spending the last 42-ish minutes here with me. May any of the fruits of our practice, or may any of the merit generated from our practice be for the benefit of all beings. There we go. Okay. You're welcome, Jeff and Catherine. Good to hear, Emma. I will, and then if Ruth watches again, bye, Ruth. Or hasta luego. You're incredibly welcome, Bill and Lynn and Annalisa and Brooke, of course. Thanks for being here, Brooke. This is one of those techniques that may kind of push in more of the discomfort category, because you're maybe in a category that you don't really you don't like being in, or it's difficult to balance, and so if we can shift to leaning into the fact that it can be difficult to balance, then that can be kind of a nice benefit for us. It's almost like a push, pushing ourselves from a discomfort level, hopefully with appropriate bounds. I know, Emma, you do a lot of computer work, and my eyes are tired by the end of the day. So it definitely has some, so when you're using vision, that can be one of the things. And then just knowing you can always switch it, kind of like shift. And Jeff had mentioned this. There was a question maybe about 3 weeks ago now about changing home bases rapidly. And I had used the channel surfing analogy that may or may not be applicable these days, from a standpoint of folks may be used to firing up or not channel surfing the way that I used to channel surf. So that is a very nice, yes. Opening the eyes just as taking off the glasses. That's an excellent trick. So usually, or I should say, often techniques are guided with a certain diffusion in, I didn't mean to get the focus pump on that, but that's kind of cool. There's a bit of diffusion in, and that we're not trying to make out the shapes or be very discerning with vision in the technique as a whole. So Shamatha Vipassana, at least the way that it was instructed in for Susan Piver's meditation teacher training, it was the notion that your eyes were open, but you really weren't focusing on sort of things. You weren't sort of making hard boundaries around and categorizing, kind of like that's a baseball bat and that's a poster and all these other sort of things. So, but then if we flip and we have this notion of watching that process of me picking out different things, we can also kind of shift and play with our attention a bit. So thanks for sharing that trick, Emma. And then if there is enough people for Saturday, you'll hear by tomorrow. Again, if it would be a dry run, it would be like an in addition to another one of the meetings, mainly as a kind of test for my setup, because I haven't done the Zoom setups and Zoom introductions and things like that. So, and then I'll be back on Sunday. So I'll be moderating on Sunday. And to my knowledge, Jeff, I think, is back from Halifax, but maybe we'll be in the same spot. So yeah, okay. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Brooke. Yeah, the midway point in noticing, like, so you'll sometimes get in walking meditation, the instructions, at least in the Theravada school, is to try to walk in a way where you aren't naming the objects, which is this like super weird thing to be given to somebody when you haven't sat with a lot, or you haven't dealt with a lot of different meditation instructions. But it seems maybe a little bit, well, maybe I'm projecting on that, but it seems a little bit related. So, but that noticing, like the noting the stillness, and then like being midway, yeah, or who knows? Maybe I know. So we'll be back next week, and again, like I said, we'll figure out the 19th, and I think that's it. And then we went over a little bit, so thank you for the bonus time, the extra 3 minutes into the next hour. And yeah, so okay, so you're open on the 19th. All right, I will reach out and email you, Brooke, and then I'll get everything set up for that. So have a fantastic rest of your Wednesday night. Have an amazing Thursday if you're like Lynn and I think maybe Mao on the other side of the date boundary. And have a great rest of your week. I'll see you on Sunday.